My name is Greg Baldwin, and I am a character designer. Being a character designer has a lot of facets to it. Of course, it starts with being able to draw something with good anatomy or mechanics or line of action or shape logic. But there's quite a bit more that goes into designing a character than just being able to draw. There's the ability to tell a story, which is what makes a character really memorable, is what can allow the viewer to kind of engage with the character, hopefully fall in love with that character or hate that character. But mostly it's the kind of ability to make that character someone that they remember for the rest of their life. It's like they met a long lost friend that they never even knew. There's a lot you can say about who a character is just by the way that they look, the way that they hold themselves, how their armors are damaged, the favorite band t-shirt that they're wearing, and the hairstyle that they're wearing. But how do we bring emotion into that? How do we bring something meaningful into it that says how the character is going to react in a situation, how the viewer can expect them to take on a challenge that they're facing just by looking at them, just meeting them for a split second on screen. These are the kinds of challenges that as a character designer we start to face. Even when we look at the most iconic characters, those characters feel like they've lived a life. They've been around for a long time. And it's a good exercise to ask, what story is this character designed to tell me? And oftentimes, as a character artist, character designer, we have to find ways to create almost like a repository of things that we can draw from as we sit down and we're sort of pitted up against that blank page sitting in front of us. It can be really ominous to get a lot of history all baked down into one single character and feel like that's successful, to feel like that character is going to be relatable and people are going to cherish that character and rally behind them. For me, I'm always looking for ways to get that inspiration. It doesn't come from the same place each time I sit down and draw. It comes from random places. And sometimes it's just about the observation, observing things that normally, maybe out of politeness, maybe out of just social structure, you would look away from. But just in our everyday worlds, we look around, you could be sitting in a coffee shop, which I think is kind of a standard trope. But the people sitting around us, they can be really fascinating. The way they interact with the person sitting across the table from them is even more fascinating, because then there's this sort of dichotomy, the juxtaposition between the different characters, or the different people in this case, hopefully characters in the long run. How they work together, how their interchange happens throughout their conversations, the way that they move their hands, the way that someone might emote using just their face, maybe not audibly. There's these little nuances, these micro emotions that you can sort of tuck away in your mind, but sometimes just understanding those subtleties can spark an idea. Our surroundings tend to feel mundane and feel ordinary to us because we've, been inside of them for so long that we don't really notice sort of the interesting magic that's going on with them each day. But, like here, if I'm drawing a robot, and I want this robot to feel like it came from my world, something that I can relate to. It might be the old construction tractor that was sitting vacant in a lot, just sitting overgrown by weeds and grasses. Every day it's getting more and more rusty, neglected and forgotten. Or, I'm looking in a store window and there's an old camera perched on a shelf gathering dust. And I can imagine that camera thinking to itself, am I ever going to get to fire off my shutter again? Am I ever going to get to join the world of these digital SLRs and the camera phones that everybody's using? I can imagine sort of the plight and the longing that an object like that would have. Or, maybe it's an old man that I saw walking down the street. The expression that fell over his face as a bunch of young kids were running past him and they sort of obliviously cut him off as he was just trying to enter into the corner store that he's been going to ever since he was their age. And so, as we take in our world around us that is normally commonplace, common to us every day, we can start to see these little gems kind of rise up from what we are used to seeing, and we can lock those away. Maybe it's not the idea that we're going to use that night or the next day or the next week, but it's there, it's tucked away. And when something comes up that's looking for a story, it's looking for something to say, and you have those stories tucked away waiting for you, you can draw from them. No pun intended. What we see as sort of common and ordinary every day is now become our main source of inspiration. And what's great about that is nobody else is experiencing what we're experiencing. So we're telling them a story that otherwise they wouldn't have heard. So for them, while it may be ordinary to us, it's very exciting. It's what I look for in the characters that I fall in love with. Tell me that story that I've never heard before. Bring me to a place that I've never been. And in return, it takes our sort of ordinary and possibly even mundane worlds and turns them into these extraordinary places where our characters can come to life from. So the next time you're out buying groceries or driving to work or sitting on your front steps, pay a little bit more attention to your ordinary world and listen to its truly amazing and extraordinary stories. Alright, enough all that. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to work.